I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and today we're reviewing another game from the Mind Sports Olympiad, this time played by somebody other than myself. So I've chosen an early round matchup between two of strong players. Ever, one of the top UK players. Porter, one of the top Portuguese players. Both were among the leaders of their respective national teams back in spring 2001 at the World Team Online Carcassonne Championship. And now in this individual tournament, it was an unfortunate pairing for a little bit both of them because that was one of the early rounds where you would expect weaker opponents, but we get both players in their high 600s, and eventually this game will decide, will basically leave one of the players with very slim chances of getting into the playoffs because you needed to get 7 victories out of 8. So if we jump into it at the start, we have all standard moves. This one is definitely a move that you can play. I would just put the same stuff but over here or over here. Not over here actually, with some risk of getting blocked, but adding more points for the monastery. This conservative approach is certainly doable as well. So we still have standard moves. Probably the British player with a slight advantage. Now this city becomes looking dangerous, but the Portuguese player manages to connect to it just in time. And here comes the first critical moment of the game. What would you play if you were blue? Where would you place this curve? There are several options, but maybe pause the video and I will say what we can do in 3, 2, 1. So several options. One, you can place this over here for a sort of harmonious development of your monastery, preempting this road over here. And if you draw a road tile before your opponent, then you can also meeple this road as well. There's some downside, of course, such as in some scenarios your opponent takes a 5-point road over here, although that doesn't happen very often. This wouldn't be a very good move. It's kind of a very discordant development. Would reduce the number of tiles that fit to your monastery. What else? You could start blocking over here, but there's so many tiles still in the game that would be close to useless. So the move that I would play is over here. There's several, and of course with a meeple. So there's several reasons to this. One, you're creating this beautiful monastery spot next to your own over here. Second, you are kind of preempting a 5-point road that is difficult to attack from here. This one will come with extra value to the monastery as well. This point is a little bit soft because this tile, the 4-sided crossroads, is already out, which makes this spot slightly easier to block. But the thing, if red wanted to block the spot, he would have to spend 3 tiles at the very least, kind of here. Most importantly, one of which would have to go over here to create this unfillable hole with 4 sides. And by placing this tile over here, he'd be adding point to Blue's monastery. So I would prefer this move. The move played in the game was this one, which I think is also decent because it gets you 5 points. It again creates a softer spot over here because it can kind of be blocked. But at the start of the game, if Sporter, let's say, grabs a city tile and places it over here, then ever would still have 3 tiles to fill in this hole. So it's definitely Fine. There's slight downside is that to get out of that, you do have to draw another curve, of which there are still 8, or you have to draw a monastery with the road, and you can place it over here and claim a massive advantage in the game. So definitely a reasonable move. By the way, a mistake would be to play this without a meeple, because you're creating too much variance. So the meeple placement was good for sure. And now this move also makes sense to me. Sort of creating this soft spot over here, but it's likely to be filled with some extra points for ever, regardless of which party actually manages to fill in this hole. And so interestingly, now it would be this tile like this, for example, would be worth 5 points for ever for placement over here, or 3 points for Sporter if he draws this one first. Okay, so the connection over there with slight blocking platform, and of course a slight chance for reconnect, but the thing is now ever needs 2 of these city caps or city tiles in 2 places, one for over here, one for over here, and this would probably be a priority spot for him, so this is not as dangerous to leave this gap as one might seem. And now comes the first problem with this move. With this move initially, because that was the consequence, is that you can't extract value from this tile, and so what blue ends up doing is just dumping it. Of course, in this situation, I think it was correct to place the meeple over here, because there's still 3 meeples, there's still 6 crossroads left in the game, and 4 other tiles that can complete a road, so I wouldn't leave around potential quick points for your opponents lying around. And now comes the second, it's kind of a continuation of this, but this is a real critical point of the game. Pause the video and think what you would do with this curve over here if you were red. All right, so a tempting move is, well, of course you could grab the road, but like this, but a tempting move is to place this curve over here. And this is actually what happened in the game. So the reason, well, you add 1 point to your opponent, but you're creating this massive threat of blocking 2 meeples and then playing the meeple advantage. And I actually like this move, even though mathematically you're not getting very good chances. I didn't bother calculating, but just based on the ratio of the tiles based on the ratio of the blocking tiles and the saving tiles, it's so basically here's what needs to happen. In order to complete the block, Sporter would need to draw a curve or a curve with a city like this before ever draws any kind of road or any kind of city with this. So at the moment there are at the very least I think 9 tiles that go here, and they're like at least 20 tiles that go over here easily for ever, and probably even more than that. For example, if you draw something like this, then that's that would be a golden tile. You complete a road, you start a city, and you face it inwards. So mathematically, maybe that doesn't quite work out in terms of points, but those situations where you do complete this block, as happened in the game, well, as we'll see in a couple of moves. So ever didn't draw a saving tile. This one actually, I mean, I guess that was a necessary move because that attacks this, but it doesn't really do much in terms of preventing this. Yeah, by the way, it's a very lucky draw for Sporter, because not only does it complete the block, but it also comes with extra value. So in some scenarios, for example, like if Sporter drew something like this and then claim that city. At the very least, this city would be slightly vulnerable and prone to blocking. At the moment now, red is at an advantage, even though River has more points. There's 7 here and 7 here, but with a 5-2 meeple advantage, Sporter could really do some damage. So with these kind of moves, you should consider not just the probabilities of successful blocks, which I think was, I think I might be imprecise in that, but like it fell between 20 and 30%. So like once every 4 games you can complete that. Definitely 25 or less. But then if you get to do a lot of damage, then it might be worth it. And if you are unsuccessful with this kind of block, and you end up adding a point to your opponent, which is of course a negative trade-off, but you still have chances to win the game in other ways. So this is how you can often think about the move. It's not just like whether it work, but how does it contribute to your win probability. And at the moment, situation of blue doesn't look very good. And for example, this is one of the first things with the meeple disadvantage. It was a beautiful monastery spot, but 2 short-term meeples to take this. I might gamble and take this actually, because then if you get another one, it would work well. But then a lot of things would need to happen. So probably leaving this empty was the correct, and then if you draw another one, then you can meeple that one. So Sporter already got some immediate benefits from completing this block, just from denying the Ever an opportunity to productively score these 6 points. But you know, the game still goes on. Now again, by the way, 3 points, and this was the result of an early move. This would have been only 2 points if not for this. I think that was a kind of a mistake to just leave that stuff lying around. Yeah, not a very useful tile for ever. Although I would have put that over here to sort of limit the tiles that go here, limit the opponent's opportunity to harass my little city over here. Yeah, a decent draw for a Sporter, I guess. A blockable spot, but maybe I slightly prefer this one over here. Now this one's also fine. So you definitely, the correct thing is that Sporter definitely wants to now place his meeples in places where ever can't. Yep, and now this nice big city brewing could really give ever some compensation. So the upside, of course, is a lot of points. It's already 11, and then upon connection it's going to be 13 or 14. There's an off chance it might even be completed, in which case ever would have to the advantage again. The disadvantage is that if ever managed just to win this city, then, you know, he would be at the further meeple disadvantage. So he would be down 4-1. But if he does manage to win this city then and just hold tight until the end of the game, that will probably be enough points to win. Yeah, Sporter trying to create connection spots. Now this, I'm not sure if I was, I mean, that's fine, but I would have done the same thing, but like over here I would have scored 4 points for this city, and no, this is fine. Yeah, this thing is, so Sporter's trying to attack this city over here. Yeah, that was actually a good move, this sequence, because it creates also a soft spot over here with some potential blocks if you have the right tile. In the meantime, Sporter just keeps grabbing quick points, and if he manages to draw one of these two remaining triangles, or one of the two remaining these guys, so 4 tiles left to put over here, then he would be at a commanding lead. There would be a shared city with an extra point of attack. So, and now ever makes a really good move. This over here is to create a blocking platform, and you actually have to turn this curve this way and not that way, precisely because of the high number of the straight roads still left in the game. So there were 2 discarded, 2 already used, so there's 6 left, and there are also some other tiles that are good for here. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 curves. And even if, let's say, Sporter manages to draw a curve, then they would be reducing their chances from 96% to 75. No, to actually less than 75% of connecting to this city. I say less than 75 because ever would still have 1 divider available. So they would have to draw one of these triangles before ever draws a divider. But yeah, and then they don't get this. And bam! Here comes the block, and in terms of meeples, now ever has equalized, and then this guy can't score any additional points. And if he manages to somehow harass this meeple a little bit, then you know, he's right back in the game. I do have an issue with just leaving 3 points lying around like this. You have 2 meeples, there's still quite a few straight roads left in the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 road ending tiles left in the game. And generally when you have 2 meeples, do them for 2 things. 1 meeple is for cities, for small cities, and the other meeple is for roads. And then you have to pass on monasteries unless there's like a 6 point or unless there's a 7 or 8 point spot somewhere on the map, which there isn't. Yeah, so I would meeple this again. You've probably recognized my theme is just like when in doubt, I tend to meeple stuff rather than not meeple stuff. So it's I don't like sharing points with my opponent. That's the main thing. Sometimes I get into trouble because of that, but I think this one was still fine. By the way, Sporter is getting the better draws for sure, like with this immediate move. Some quick points as well. Sorry, my board game arena is a little bit slow. Yeah, this one's okay, although I would probably just continue my own city. I don't know, that felt like a waste of a tile a little bit. Oh, I mean, it does add 1 point, but you want to use this to turn your city away to a less vulnerable spot. And so yeah, that's what happens. Kind of now Sporter starts harassing it. That wasn't possible unless you had blue use this tile to sort of turn this city away. There's, by the way, a lucrative road already starting, so whoever has the more meeples will get the advantage. Now blue excellently takes the advantage of red's mistake. Well, yeah, I think this move was actually maybe not the best, because it was constricting his own city, and now Sforcer's gonna have a tough time completing this. Yeah, although it does help for him that he gets the good draws, like, despite of all this stuff. Here comes another painful moment. Like, if that were just a few tiles closer to the end of the game, I might meeple that, but now it's like a little bit too risky because the thing with ever you're behind 425. It's actually less than that. It's actually way less than that because this over here is a lot of points, and then this road over here, comparison to this guy over here, is +6. So if he manages to complete this city, he's barely behind anything. But like with 21 tiles left to go, I guess meepling this is just a little bit too much. Although, so I would do the same move, but I would do it with more pain and more deliberation, as I really don't like to give up on points, even when it's correct, as it was in this case. Okay, no city for ever, no city for Sporter. Lots of blocking. Okay, that was probably a mistake. So you want to rather block this city rather than connect to it. And maybe start a new one somewhere else. So nobody's taking this row yet because they don't have the tiles. Again, they don't have the tiles, but there come the 4 points. So yeah, at this stage of the game, it's depends quite a lot on who gets the quick points because both opponents have only one meeple, and the draw looks pretty balanced. There's a lot of these tiles. So ever finds a good field, which is 6 points, potentially gonna be 9. But if Sporter manages to get this road, that would be yeah. So this is okay, but I might have even considered putting the meeple on the road, but it's a lot. It depends a lot on like what kind of tiles are left there. So ever manages to expand. And then to connect. And finally, ever manages to grab this nice 8-point road to compensate for the field. Oh, and Sporter manages to get the connection. So, as you see in this kind of game, like where all opponents have 1 or 2 meeples, the possibilities for each side are very restricted. There's like not so much that you can do, but there is still some leeway. Like you can place your small cities into more secure spots. You can decide whether meepling something is worth it or not. So yeah, but this situation was definitely very interesting, and so was this one. The game kind of balanced itself nicely, and that's how Blue managed to make this comeback from a very difficult position. It's hard to say what Sporter could have done differently to hold on to this advantage, because all moves pretty much seemed reasonable, with maybe exception of a couple. So it was really actually a high quality game for both opponents. But generally, the strategy that you want to do when you have a meeple advantage is you want to create large features that your opponent can't compete for. So for example, Sporter could have tried starting a field somewhere, although he didn't really get the tiles for it. And what was fortunate for ever is that he had this, the fact that this big city was there on the map. It doesn't even matter that much that ever got it at the end. It prevents the creation of large fields, because all the city tiles go in here, or it's just like very big and takes up a lot of space. There's, as you see, not many patches of green around it, and if you had to start a new field, you have to do it elsewhere, and then you have to be quite small. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think of of this game? What do you think about the blocks? Would have you attempted the same block as Porter did and successfully completed? How would you play later on? And am I too greedy in suggesting meepling everything? Well, do let me know. And there will be at least one more game from the Mind Sports Olympiad coming up in the next couple of days. So stay tuned, like, subscribe and stuff. More Carcassonne comments, more Carcassonne content coming up soon. Thank you so much for watching.